Clay farming, late game. Why would we ever want to use this first day strategy far into year 2 of our run? Certainly not to sell, right? Can we craft anything useful with it to make tons of money? Well, we'll see shortly, but for now, welcome back to summer year 2 of the Stardew Valley min-max and 100% perfection guide. We're covering days 7 through 10, and we'll start with some clay farming and see how it can be useful in the late game, and we'll also have a cycle of Starfruit wine finished and reach a total of 500 kegs now, which will allow us to make more Starfruit wine to sell for over 12 million G to reach perfection very soon. If you're interested in more min-max and perfection content like this, consider checking out my playlist with all the videos in the series, and consider subscribing to be sure to see future videos. Let's get started with summer day 7, where we quickly take care of chores on the farm and then warp right over to the beach to get started with clay farming. If you haven't heard of clay farming by now, where have you been? Just kidding. Basically, clay farming is a strategy used in min-max runs on the first day to gather lots of clay to sell for lots of money. We won't be selling our clay, but we still do need to gather a bunch, so to start farming we actually need to first find one piece of clay, which we could potentially use a map predictor to find, but we'll be doing it the old-fashioned way and just keep digging up one tile at a time until we find a piece of clay. A much better way to go about this is to actually just dig in the same spot and use the pickaxe to untill the land over and over until we find a piece of clay. This way, we can choose our starting point and then follow a pattern to find clay accordingly. The common pattern that most people use is to go up one tile and over to the right 2 tiles and repeat this 6 times. Then we move back to the starting point and move up 5 tiles and repeat the 1 up, 2 to the right 4 times. Then we move back to the starting point again, and this time start 1 tile above and repeat the pattern, essentially just tilling every space above the tiles we already tilled 6 times, and same thing with the upper portion but 4 times. This is the main pattern, and after this we will find the next starting point by moving 3 tiles to the right of our original tile, and then repeat the same process. I don't want to get too technical with clay farming right now, since there's many guides out there, but perhaps I'll make a standalone video guide sometime, but for now, we'll focus more on the day at hand. We are attempting to clay farm as quickly as possible, but since this was my first time trying out clay farming, I tend to lose where I am in the pattern a whole bunch, but am usually able to get back on track. A few tips: if you do happen to accidentally hoe the wrong space, you can just skip to the next tile in the pattern, since every time you hoe a tile, the clay will move to the next tile in the pattern. This is also helpful when the next clay tile in the pattern is on an unhoeable space. We can just hoe a random tile and then move on to the next clay tile in the pattern. Also, if you happen to lose track of where you are, you can try skipping a few tiles ahead in the pattern and hoeing and pickaxing that tile until you get a piece of clay. Should just take a few times, but then if you get completely lost, you can always just pick a new tile to start from and just hoe and pickaxe that tile until you get the clay and then start over. So there's a quick look at how clay farming works, and we did collect 92 clay, which should be enough for our purposes, so we can head out to town now. But first I should mention, earlier in the day, when we warped over to the beach, we did happen to trigger Alex's 8 heart event, which can be activated on a sunny summer day at the beach or Ginger Island Resort when Alex happens to be there. Alex reveals his mother died 12 years ago and shows us a music box she left for him, and we do get a few dialogue options, but none will impact friendship points. After clay farming, we check the east side of the beach for forageables, then take the shortcut up to town and head all the way up to the carpenter's shop. I decide to repaint the house and jade shed with some better looking colors, then apply a similar color scheme to the coop and barn, and finally paint the other 5 sheds, 2 of them purple to represent the kegs for wine, and 3 of them yellow to represent the Starfruit garden pots. After painting, we order construction of another fish pond, then leave the shop and enter the mines. We'll finish up the day here and try to farm some radioactive ore, but unfortunately, we get rather unlucky and don't find a single node. We do manage to collect a good amount of monster loot though, and even get a fair amount of hardwood from the mahogany trees on the jungle floors. We pass out and hear a strange noise during the night. Almost sounds like an owl. Sure enough, when we wake up on summer day 8 and head out to the farm, we find a mysterious owl statue. This is one of the game's night events that has a very small chance to occur. Unfortunately, there's no significance to the owl statue, it's just a decorative item, but it's neat that the event occurred. We begin the day with our farm chores, including cycling some machines, including the Deconstructor, which is easier than ever to cycle for us now, as all we have to do is collect the item, in our case the gold bar, and the hopper will feed in the next item, a quality sprinkler, into the Deconstructor. The hopper is definitely more of a quality of life item as opposed to in-game time saving, but since we had to craft one for the Craft Everything Perfection goal, we might as well make use of it, but likely won't ever craft more. Next, we collect the jades from our crystallarium shed and smelt some more iridium bars, and I grab a total of 200 iridium bars and some starfruit, which we will be shipping in a bit to make some money to buy starfruit seeds tomorrow. We will have both the harvest of starfruit growing on the main farmland and starfruit ready in our garden pot shed to take care of tomorrow. We harvest and replant the melons with more melon seeds, which completes the farm chores. Now we can warp over to the beach and real quick head up to the special order board since it is Monday, which is the new quest day, and we can finally find Caroline's Island ingredient quest waiting for us here, which will unlock the solar panel recipe. The solar panels are cool and all, and can produce us some more battery packs, but most importantly, this recipe will be the last recipe we need in order to craft everything for the perfection goal. Next, we travel to Ginger Island and make a stop at our chest to grab some more starfruit in addition to the ones we have already brought, then sell the 200 iridium bars, 227 gold star starfruit, and 324 silver star starfruit. After this, we make our way to the Golden Walnut Room and once again receive the Keys Kindness Challenge. We warp to the desert and put away some of our inventory clutter in the Junimo chest, then head inside to get started with a Skull Cavern dive. Today is a super luck day, which should allow us to have more lucrative dives, but we did get a bit of a late start today, so I won't be using a magic rock candy or too many crafted staircases. We only make it to floor 163, but collect a decent 485 iridium ore and 8 prismatic shards and an array of other loot as well. We pass out and see our earnings from the items we sold, over 600,000 from starfruit and 300,000 from iridium bars, for a total of over 900,000 G to buy starfruit seeds with. We begin day 9 by making use of the clay we farmed earlier, and can craft 137 garden pots, which require 1 clay, 1 refined quartz, and 10 stone to craft. We make more use of the clay by crafting 137 deluxe retaining soil, which requires 1 clay, 3 fiber, and 5 stone to craft. The combination of deluxe retaining soil and a garden pot is very powerful, as we can fill up another shed with these and never have to water the crops we grow after the first time. We'll be setting up a second starfruit garden pot shed in a bit, but first must finish the farm chores. After those, we grab the usual bunch of gift items to give out for Keys' kindness, and give a gift to Jazz, Marnie, Shane, Leia, Sam, Vincent, Haley, Emily, Kent, Penny, Gus, Pam, Harvey, Maru, Evelyn, Lewis, Elliot, Alex, and Willie. Wow, that's a lot. Then we travel to Ginger Island and give Leo a duck feather, which puts us at 6 hearts with him, so soon we can activate the cutscene that has him move into the valley. Since we have Caroline's Island ingredient special order to collect 100 ginger, we dig up any ginger we find on the island, and will likely need to visit the island much more frequently in order to complete this quest. We collect resources from the dig site, then warp to the desert and give Sandy a gift before buying starfruit seeds. We have over 900,000 G, and we will be spending near all of it on starfruit seeds, since we now have many different places growing starfruit. We have the island farm, our main farm only in the summer, and then our greenhouse, and also our garden pot sheds. We buy over 2 stacks of starfruit seeds in hopes this should cover a few of the harvests in our near future. We warp back to the farm and give Krobus a pumpkin, and I craft some pancakes which we'll use as a cheap loved gift for Jody. We're pretty well into the day now, so we should definitely begin our starfruit harvest, as we have the 3 sections on the main field to tend to, as well as the garden pot shed that's already set up and already has starfruit ready, and we'll also try to set up a second one and get the starfruit planted in there. We'll begin with the top left field and along the way pet the animals, and we'll harvest and replant all the starfruit on this field within 1 game hour. We quickly cycle some machines and smelt some gold ore, and also harvest some fiber plants and replant them with more fiber seeds. We got this recipe for the fiber seeds from completing Linus's community cleanup special order, and they're nice because they don't require water to grow and produce us a good amount of fiber, which we'll always want more of. Next, we'll plant the starfruit seeds on the main field with Junimo huts, and the Junimos did harvest the starfruit here, so we just plant the seeds. This does save us real life time as we aren't waiting for the harvest animation, but actually doesn't save us any in-game time as opposed to harvesting and replanting them at the same time, since time actually freezes when we harvest a crop. This is why I recommend using Junimo huts for regrowable crops like coffee beans and ancient fruit, but not necessarily for non-regrowables like melons or starfruit. The last field on our main farmland is the lower left, which is always tricky to navigate effectively with the quality sprinklers and scarecrows getting in the way, but we do manage to harvest and replant all the starfruit within 1.5 in-game hours. Next, we'll tend to our existing garden pot shed and harvest and replant the 137 starfruit in there, which takes around 40 game minutes. Now we can finally fulfill the purpose of the clay farming from earlier by entering an empty shed and placing down the 137 garden pots we crafted. After this, we place down the deluxe retaining soil, which of course will let the pot remain watered forever after we water them once. We plant 137 starfruit seeds in the garden pots, then use the maximum charge on our watering can to water as many as we can at once, and we finish setting up this garden pot shed with a couple hours left in the day. The starfruit in the garden pots will grow in 12 days since we must use the retaining soil as opposed to speed grow, but it is much more worth it as we can fit a whole lot more starfruit in a shed than on the amount of space the shed takes up on the actual farmland. We finish the day by collecting our jades and smelting more iridium, and then I noticed that our indicator keg outside the keg shed is actually finished brewing the starfruit wine. I normally round up the amount of days it takes wine to finish to 7 days for simplicity, but technically it only takes 6.25 game days, which is why we see the keg shed finished a bit earlier than expected. We can take advantage of this and the time left in the day to process some of our coffee beans and brew some coffee, since coffee sells for much more profit as opposed to selling the beans raw. We pass out as we're brewing and move on to day 10, and we know that all our kegs over the map are done brewing starfruit wine and will need to be cycled. But as I just mentioned, we can actually take advantage of the fact that they take 6.25 days to brew and try to brew some coffee in that 0.75 of a day time frame. We real quick harvest some hot peppers manually and complete that portion of the crop order quest that we have, then start cycling our kegs with more coffee beans as opposed to starfruit. The keg sheds here we'll come back to later in the day and put starfruit in them then, but for now we'll try to get a round of coffee processed. In fact, we were able to process 2 rounds before we leave the farm at 10 a.m. We throw some coffee beans in the kegs at the bus stop, and again, we'll come back to these later to throw some starfruit in. And of course today I want to craft even more kegs since we will be getting more oak resin from our tappers later, but sadly we are out of wood, so we'll have to find some somewhere. We take the minecart to the quarry, and I know, as I mentioned, I might use the quarry trees for more tapping, but right now we need more wood, so I'm going to go ahead and chop down all the trees here for wood. We made a few bombs and placed them down to clear the rocks and also get a free hit on some of the trees to make chopping go faster. And we use animation canceling to quickly chop down all the trees here, and by consuming a tropical curry and using our shaving enchantment, we are able to get some extra wood. After all the trees are chopped, I replant the entire quarry with tree seeds, then head across the quarry bridge and chop some of the trees outside the Adventurers Guild. We pass by Maru and Linus and give them gifts along our way to the carpenter's shop, where we order the construction of another fish pond, this one's number 6, which will be our last one. We give a gift to Sebastian and Robin, then exit the shop and head up to the railroad. We chop down some of the trees here without tappers and plant some tree seeds in the unoccupied space. We collect all of the oak resin and other tapped goods, then head to the backwoods and into the tunnel to begin cycling the starfruit wine kegs with more starfruit. We cycle all the kegs here, then cycle all the kegs along the road, then find ourselves back at the bus stop area where we can see our coffee is done. Essentially, the whole goal of this coffee processing was to not interfere with our normal starfruit wine schedule, and we have successfully done so. We throw Starfruit into all the kegs here, then return to the farm. We were able to collect almost 2 stacks of wood from tree chopping and use the wood and oak resin to craft 55 new kegs. This will put our total keg count to 501 kegs, if I have counted correctly. Since we have a few more hours in the day, rather than immediately cycling Starfruit in our keg shed kegs, we cycle another round of coffee beans. We do this in our second keg shed as well, and while we're in there, we place down the 55 new kegs. We'll come back shortly to process the Starfruit since the coffee is brewing right now. We were able to get through a good few stacks of coffee beans today to turn into coffee, but as you can see in the Junmo huts here, there is still a lot more where that came from. We'll likely do a similar brewing process as we did today next time we have a wine cycle done. Since we're nearing the end of the day, we'll have to start putting Starfruit in the kegs so we can brew a round of 500 Starfruit wine, which will be ready in a week. 500 Starfruit wine per week equates to over 1.5 million G per week, and of course these numbers will just keep growing as we near perfection. We already have around 2,000 Starfruit wine ready to sell, so we will for sure be able to earn 12 million G before the end of this summer to buy the gold clock and 2 more obelisks for perfection. And we've just got a few more NPCs to max out friendship with, and then complete the island ingredient special order for the final crafting recipe. We should be able to accomplish everything before the end of summer, except of course the final cooking recipes, which we cannot learn until the final Queen of Sauce on the final day of year 2. Most likely, once we achieve all of the perfection goals besides cooking, I might consider sleeping through fall and winter to finish up the run so I can try out new videos and start a new run sooner. But please let me know your thoughts on this in the comments, or share whatever you'd like to say. I always appreciate every comment. As always, thank you for watching, and goodbye.